7:01 p.m. on February 4th, 2025, and have you rise to say the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Williams, call the roll.
Trustee Brown? Trustee Clark?
Here.
Trustee Lynch? Trustee Rowe? Here. Trustee Williams?
Present.
Trustee Taylor? Here. Here.
Would somebody like to make a motion for the approval of the regular board meeting minutes of February 4th, 2025?
So moved.
Trustee Lynch? Trustee Clark? Any questions or corrections? Clerk Williams, call the roll.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Rowe?
Yes.
Trustee Lynch?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Would somebody like to make a motion for the approval of the regular board meeting minutes of January 21st, 2025? Trustee Taylor? Trustee Lynch? Any questions, corrections? Clerk Williams, call the roll.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Rowe?
Yes.
Trustee Lynch?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Treasurer report, Brian Jansen.
Good evening, everyone. Treasurer's report, so we had bills payable for 31st, 2025, corporate at $370,526.01. Motor fuel tax at $8,682.07. Sewer and water for $64,095.71. TIF main for $10,358.25. TIF Halsted North for $238,347.51. TIF Halsted South for $4,887. And Glenwood Golf Course for $5,132.83 for a total funds dispersed at $702,029.38. Along with this AP run, we've identified fund transfers. The first one is transferring funds from an enterprise fund from MFT to corporate because of there were some invoices that we found that were paid to corporate, so they're going to be reclassed into the MFT account for sewer for street resurfacing. The next one is a contiguous TIF transfer of $250,000 from the industrial TIF to Halsted North, and this is all primarily due to the Fire Station 2 expenses that were listed in the Halsted North TIF expenditures.
Somebody like to make a motion to approve the bills payable?
So moved.
Trustee Williams. We have a second.
Second.
Trustee Brown. Any questions?
I have a question. Brian, so I've asked occasionally, but to have a detailed breakdown of the TIF transfers, specifically what that amount is and what those purchases are. Because I guess, for me, I'm wondering, is this $250,000 a part of that approval that the board approved at the last meeting for the TIF project? Sorry, for the fire station project?
Correct.
So
we have about 30,000 more that we're expecting expenses for to still be paid out.
and that's why I'm asking for a breakdown so that I understand that this table is much easier to track it. So since I guess this raises another question for me, since we've been approving TIF transfers, has that, I don't know, maybe even Chief can answer it. Chief, these TIF transfers that we've been approving, was this allocated to the original budget for that fire station, or was this because we had already planned to go over budget for it?
No, there was the original approval, and there was transfer
north, and then we transferred as needed. But originally it was only to the 1.4, then it went to 1.88, and now it's up to the 2.18 or whatever the final was. And like Brian says, the total left up to that final approval that you guys did is somewhere just in the vicinity of $30,000 a month in invoicing that will be finished up.
Any questions? Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Roll?
Yes.
Trustee Lynch?
No.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Payroll.
Payroll for the January 24, 2025, corporate was $147,389.75. Sewer and water, $446.45. Paid on call, $10,989.79. Elected positions, $6,274.36. Glen Lady Golf Course, $11,030.73. Vendor checks were $1,639.79. Overtime from police was $7,525.79, which reimbursable was $672.10. Sewer and water was $3,130.05. Public Works overtime was $1,685.41. The Economic Development stipend was $461.54, and the Deputy Clerk stipend was $192.31 for a total payroll of $202,075.45.
Somebody like to make a motion to approve the payroll? Trustee Taylor. Trustee Clark. Do we have any questions? Clerk Williams, call the roll.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Roll? Yes. Trustee Lynch?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
The meeting's now open to the public. Anybody wishing to address the board, come up, write your name and address down, and address the board. Lady first.
Good evening. Kathy Paxton, 30 years. My two questions that I have. The statement was made at the last board meeting regarding finance director and a part-time finance person in the finance department. And the response was that resumes were received, but yet the applicants were not qualified. That has been said for over a year, but they're not qualified. There have been some qualified persons who have submitted their resumes, and that we know. But the concern that many residents have is that our village administrator, when he was hired, was not qualified. But the previous board voted and agreed to pay Fire Chief, who was acting village administrator at that time, $1,000 per month to train him. Remember that?
That's what this situation is. I think Brian's going to reach it.
I'm sorry?
I think Brian's going to reach it.
Yeah, no, I'm saying when he was hired. I'm not talking about now. Yeah,
When he's hired, we formed a committee.
yes,
The committee should put him up to the vote.
to train him. Well, that's, go back into the notes, that's what the board agreed on, to train him at $1,000 per month to train him.
That's incorrect.
Go back to the minutes. The board agreed. and that was supposed to be for a year, which would have been $12,000, but it exceeded a year. My concern is that, and all of us that know the Bible and know God's word, there's 2 words in there called grace. That if we can train someone for that amount of time, we ought to have grace and mercy in training somebody else that might not meet those qualifications. If you go back, that's in there. It was agreed. The previous board agreed to $1,000 a month. It's $12,000 a year, and it exceeded that year.
You know what the date that board meeting was?
Now, I didn't bring my notes, but I can give it to you tomorrow morning. I can give it to you. So I mean that's a concern, you know. Trustee Williams, remember about maybe 6 months ago, I can't think of the lady's name that came up to you and shared with you a person, and you knew her, and she worked at the bank, and you agreed that she was qualified, but what you did say, I wasn't on board at that time. I wasn't here. I wasn't here at that time. But I'm just using that to say that there have been qualified people that have applied. People do not receive a follow-up. They don't receive a letter saying, thank you for applying. We're still looking into it, or we're still reviewing, or something, but they never hear anything. They just apply, send resumes in, and they're not notified. So I think that's a change. I mean, we got HR person in there. I mean, that could be a standard letter that you have, that you put their name on there and send it out to them. So my second question is, who is our person or the company that we're paying twice a month for economic development, and where's the report? Years ago, and I'm sure it's in the minutes too, we used to get a report that would state what companies maybe that they were trying to bring into the village, or and their responses. We get nothing now. So who are we paying out for economic development? That stipend?
Not paying anything out. So you're talking about the grants?
No, it's in our report. It's on the financial report. Economic development stipend, $461. Who is that for?
For the chief, economic development, not being an outside firm.
So do we get any report as far as what businesses are we trying to get into Glenwood? What are we doing?
The next board meeting, so we can prepare for it, we'll make a presentation at the next board.
And the financial report that we hope is going to be available?
Yes, it's in the packet.
And what about packet that's online?
And what I'm,
The financial report?
sure, Ryan, can you make sure that it starts going online?
It is on the line. It's not incorporated, the handout that is at the door. It was only on the online packet.
Okay.
At the last meeting, and you asked for it to be made available, so when we come to the meeting that we could receive it.
Sure.
My name is Connie Webster Young. I live at 839 West Manor Court. I'm here on behalf of the, well, not on behalf, but I'm here with regards to beautification committee. I called you, Mr. Mayor, several times. You didn't call me back. After the third call, you did respond with a response by a text at 10:30 at night. You told me you had a very busy day. I understand busy, and that I could please give you a call the next day, which I did, and you still did not return. But then, you had promised that, within a couple of weeks, you were going to be doing something over on strike. In those couple of weeks, there's really nothing been done on strike.
In fact, we ordered,
Oh, You ordered something?
We ordered the signs, welcome to Glenwood sign. Where's Joe at? Is Joe here?
Joe had an emergency this morning, so he had to step away, but he'll be back to the meeting shortly.
So if we need to want to answer a question on 187th and Alston and Strife.
So the signs are going up, unfortunately, they had an emergency today and yesterday on Pleasant to stop the install, but they should be starting on those tomorrow.
Okay, but then we were just, I just feel like you just dismissed what you had said, and then that you, actually insulted the intelligence of the Manor residents by putting up a construction horse, a cone, and some construction tape. My 5-year-old grandson looked at that.
Where is it?
Where?
With the Beaver was?
No, it's at 187th and Strife.
Right. Right from Alton.
Strife and Halsted.
Thank you. I'll take a look. Ryan, if you
And
could
so
take-
now, where are we now with that?
So the sign should be going up tomorrow. I'll follow up with Joe and be in the meeting. I think we're working on through.
And that sign is to say?
That's the Roman Glenwood sign, that's the first part, and then on spring comes with the landscaping around the area.
That wasn't the plan that I submitted. That wasn't the plan that was agreed to. Okay?
Who did you submit the plan to?
Ryland J. Gardner. The plan I submitted in October that was promised to be started in 2 months has not. In 2 more weeks, has not. So, promises made, promises broken. Okay, I have a couple things I want to bring up. I've seen a lot of hand wringing and pearl clutching over the fire station. Okay, I've seen some bigger plane from Elaine. But what I haven't seen is accountability and responsibility. I rarely see that. So, let me be clear. In 2017, there was a plan for the fire station, a brand new one, to be built in the plaza for $1 million from 2017. Obviously, it didn't happen. I met with Chief Welch, John Donahue, and David Schilling, right here in this building hall in the conference. The question was asked by me, where's Ron? The answer was, we don't need him. Later that year in 2022, I invited all the trustees on the board to my old fire station in Council Hills. Only one showed up. We could have had great conversations about the fire station. We could have worked with Chief Walsh to design the fire station within a certain amount of budget, but that wasn't done. It's not Chief Walsh's fault for wanting the fire station. He's doing his best. You are the legislators, the 6 trustees. You have the power of the purse. In fact, that's your greatest power. And you failed to exercise it. You can't ask them for a budget now that 1.88 million has been spent already. That's ludicrous to ask them for a budget now. And if you think just reading the packet is good enough for a board meeting, reading the packet is like reading the last 10 pages of a book. You want to know, you will not know the whole story if you haven't read the whole book. Now, one person on this board called me or any other former trustee to say, hey, what went on there back in 22? You aren't the first ones to sit in these seats. Many people have sat in those seats and made decisions, hard decisions. Because Chief Welch wants it doesn't mean you have to say yes. I know how the game is played. I know you're given information at the last minute. You have to vote with a gun to your head. But it's your fault for allowing that. Okay, let's stop.
Trustee here now, let me just, I want to back up a little bit to it. So, and I'm certainly aware that perhaps maybe I digested it correctly, but tonight isn't the first night that the board has asked for a budget.
Oh, yeah.
I don't speak for anybody, but I know I specifically have for quite a while. So it's not that there was an intentionality to be involved, create a process, but again, as I said at the last meeting, it boils down to accountability. So I agree with you, accountability and responsibility. But I think at this point, like I've asked Brian for quite a while, or running totals of the fire station and or breakdown of these transfers.
He's accountable as well. He's a chief budget
And
officer.
I understand that he's coming to a new position. I'm trying to understand.
No, this part.
Well, I understand that, but I just want you to understand that tonight wasn't the first night that conversation happened.
I understood that. But here are the questions. Was anybody involved in the design of the fire station? If you were involved, raise your hand. Of course. Were you involved in any of the financials? Of course. Were you involved in picking any contractors other than voting? I sat next to you for 2 years. We've had these conversations. When are we going to stop having the same conversations over and over and take some action? Doing the same thing and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. All right, next topic. Okay, we have many ordinances in Glenwood. Many, hundreds. I can't think of one that's followed. But there is an ordinance that I like to be followed. Ordinance 2004-19. That's to have staff being involved in political activities. Now, I know you've had meetings, and I won't put anybody on the spot, of course I could, but I won't. That you've seen staff in some of your political functions. An ambulance came to my house on this past Saturday, and a young man handed me a flyer for your Valentine's Day event. I asked him why he was passing out flyers that are quasi-political, let's be honest. He said he feared losing his job if he did. No one should be forced to pass out flyers for a political event in the fear. It's a political event. It's not your name, Mayor Gardner, you're running for office. It's a political event. And I would appreciate if you paid for your own events instead of using taxpayer dollars. Okay. Next comment. My Comcast cable has gone out in the manner, not just mine, 15 times in 4 months. I talked to the contractor that was chosen by Robinson and Merrill. And I'm going to quote to you what he said to me. I'm going to keep cutting. That's what he said. With no concern for the people that work from home, the people that have their alarm systems tied to phone or cable, television, working from home. 15 times. My cable manufacturer was out yesterday for 3 hours. Every contractor should be licensed, insured, and bonded. A couple of months ago, a Comcast contractor cut the Comcast line and then said, oh, it wasn't my fault. And it was clearly marked with flags and things. We got to do better.
Dave, we talked about this at the last meeting, I believe it was. Is there some type of reprieve that we're going after for Comcast for cutting these lines?
No, we're going after the contractor for having 187 closed for too long. There's an insurance claim between Comcast and Penn Oceanic that we have nothing to do. Comcast has filed a claim against Pan-Oceanic for cutting the lines. That has nothing to do with the Realty one. Like, Glenwood is not party to that claim.
Okay, right, I'm sorry, I'm embarrassed.
Yeah, I would excuse someone for cutting the cable once or twice, but I'm not gonna excuse you for cutting it 15 times, and then having the audacity to say, I'm going to keep cutting it. That's what I resent. Last comment. I've heard over the last 5 years, many people have spoken out about the missing $200,000. I've heard it over and over and over. Fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, I have some emails from Chief Budget Officer Brian Mitchell and former Finance Director Linda Burnett. So, on January 21, 2020, at 8:28 a.m., I sent an email to Brian and Linda. And the email reads as follows. Good morning, Brian and Linda. I need some clarification on the above referenced items. Should the board have been made aware or had a voice in the transfer of funds from corporate to Glenwood? Okay. So, the response I got back from Linda said, oh yeah, we had to do it ASAP to cover operating expenses. I made the finance committee aware of the transfer. Now, back in those days, we used to get every month, some of you old timers probably remember, Mark, might remember, every time we came to a meeting, we would have a financial report from Linda. And it would tell us what had happened in the previous 2 weeks. I know you haven't seen one of those. I don't think somebody has ever seen one. But yet you still vote yes on the bill statement. So, the problem is, Bill never got $200. So where did it go?
Trying to change that.
No. This is not a former Jewel county meeting. This is a board meeting. Okay? He was not here. You can ask anybody you want. I'm not interested in a former Jewel employee's opinion of something that happened 5 years ago when he wasn't here. His opinion doesn't matter. He doesn't know.
We researched it.
No, you didn't.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Okay.
Then why didn't you research it when I was sitting here for 4 years? Why didn't you research it then?
Go ahead.
And last thing, I rang your doorbell on Saturday. Birthday card. People can keep telling me that you don't live in Glenwood anymore. So I'm gonna ring your doorbell every day.
I gotta do something at night when I walk my dog.
Well, I came by Saturday morning.
I walk in Glenwood Tire Road.
I came by Saturday morning. I didn't see the car. I didn't see you. Ask your neighbors. No one has seen you. That's right.
Tony Platt, 423 Holland. Excuse my voice. Ron, are there or are there not employees handing out election material?
There are no employees handing out election material.
Okay, I can count on your word for that?
Yes.
And these other two are for Kevin. Kevin, the Delta Science is on the agenda. There was no economic development committee need for that?
Yeah, it's included in the packet. It was a long time ago when they presented it. It was probably a year ago. I don't have it in front of me right now.
Why
The
not?
economic development and finance, both, it's in the packets.
Well, what I'd like to know is, this is on the agenda, right?
Right.
Okay, so you should have it in front of us.
So, I'm sorry, keep listening to me. It was Tuesday, September 10th, 2024. Gave an overview of the proposals, and then it was voted with 4 people being absent, 3 people voting aye to recommend that, and the south end of the president was still going to tell us the same thing.
So since September, you don't think that there should have been another revised minute to go over it and to
No,
make
nothing,
it
nothing changed.
I'm sorry?
Nothing changed.
So what? But the committee doesn't know that. So it would not have taken too much of your time to just have another meeting to go over it before you put it on the agenda? Or what's the point of having the committee? The committee should be abolished. If you're not going to do it, because you always preside over it. So I'm addressing you. If you're not going to use the committee, why have it? Now, since September, what is it? February. You should have had another meeting. It wouldn't have taken up too much of your time to do that. The other one for you is this the end of the money now to the firehouse?
Yes.
You should. We have good word for that.
The grand opening is scheduled for the Saturday.
But the trustees don't have to say yes for any more money. The 2.1, this is it? And what did it start off at?
1.4.
1.4. So it went from 1.4 to 2.1.
Yes. Over 16 months.
Why is it lowball so much?
13%.
Well, why was it lowball so much?
I mean, we could debate it all night long. I mean, the fact of the matter is, the cost of goods went up, the process went up.
That's a lot.
Many reasons.
And all that was taxpayers' money, or?
No, there was no general fund revenues expended on that. It was all TIF revenues, which were transferred out. There was no general fund money used to fund that. And that's the reason why it was referred earlier, there was a budget number for a brand new station several years ago. That would not have been eligible for TIF expenditure. So by utilizing the existing station, tearing down the back bay, and doing a rehabilitation, the property and the whole project qualified to use TIF funds on that. So it was a boon to the village not to be using general revenue on the tax.
So where does the money come from to put into the TIF?
From the property owners within that TIF.
Right, so what is that?
Commercial properties.
That's tax money.
It would be in the commercial properties, the industrial park, Holbrook Road, and up Halsted Street, no residential.
Well,
There's residential in the Alfred South
There's one street along.
and so, I've known it a long time, you know that TIF money is taxpayers' money. So, my last thing is, Ryan, you have to start driving around the neighborhood. You should know what's on the corners. You've been talking about this beautification for a long time. And you need to get in your car, walk your dog, whatever it is you're doing. I'm not trying to be sarcastic. I'm a little bit upset because this stuff is dragged out. Now, whatever information Trustee Lynch is asking for, all the trustees should be asking for the same information. It shouldn't fall on Trustee Lynch to ask for the figures from Brian. Everybody should be asking for that. Everybody should be interested in it because you live here.
Leon Moore, 318 Blackstone. Good evening, everyone. We want to follow up on a couple of things. The minutes of the last meeting doesn't really reflect comments that I made. You may recall that we talked about Mayor Cooper, talked about the status of the water. I'm sorry, is that better? Yes, sir. And none of that is reflected, and Mr. Mayor, you committed that we would have those reports. But the minutes are incomplete because it doesn't reference those kind of comments that you and I agreed on in terms of the issues that I was concerned about. So when you guys approved the minutes, I didn't know whether or not I should have been rejected at that time, but the minutes do not reflect the comments that I made relative to the financial situation. And the mayor agreed that at the next meeting we would have another Cooper report. We would also have a status of the audit, and we also would have financial statements. So none of that is reflected in the minutes that you approved. So I point that out. The other issue is I can clarify something that was said earlier relative when Mr. Mitchell was hired, and at that point, the duties of the economic development person was in that position description, and that because of his newness, it was agreed that we would give him a startup time to assume that kind of responsibility But in the meantime, Mr. Barber failed. Mr. Welch stepped up and said that he would, in effect, fill the gap until such time Mr. Mitchell got up to speed. That lies that stipend that you see. Started off at $1,800, but it started off at now it's $1,000 a month. It started off at 18, went down to 1,000, but it continues. And I think Kathy's question was, how long does that keep going on? And so it was a part. I sat in on the panel, and Mr. Mitchell may recall. And so we purposely, in effect, determined that, hey, until you get your feet on the ground, that part of the responsibility would be covered by Mr. Welch. Hope that clarifies that confusion as to why that happens. Anyway, a couple of things in terms of the finances. So we don't have a report from Miller Cooper this meeting. And I know that that was a commitment that you indicated that we would have, so I'm still waiting on that. And hopefully, so we don't have the advantage of knowing what you guys know. And I say you guys in terms of the board. And so we don't know until we can see it. We don't have any indication as to where do we stand with Miller Cooper. You know, how much are we paying them? Where do we stand with the goal in terms of what they're going to accomplish? So I would ask again, at least at the next meeting, can we have Miller Cooper make a report so that we residents can see something, and maybe if there's something that goes to the board, that's fine. But I agree with the concept of when the board is called upon to make financial decisions, and if the information that you get is not filtered or analyzed, you may not make the best judgment. And so that's why we need to have these reports so we can, in effect, see what you're making these decisions on. And another issue that I need to bring up in regard to the Tuscan Gardens. There was an article recently on respect, and we had that discussion in terms of our lien position with Tuscan. And I just recently, someone sent me the notion is that someone purchased the real estate taxes because he was delinquent in the real estate taxes. And I tried to do some research in terms of what does that do to our lien position. And from my research, John, I think if it's not redeemed in 3 years, the person who purchased those taxes get first priority. Is that not correct? That's my legal research, not an account. I'm not an attorney.
Yeah, I'm not aware of the taxes being
They're
purchased.
delinquent. They're severely delinquent and they were bought.
Well, go ahead.
I don't have the exact date, but someone furnished me this information in terms of that. They were purchased.
This year, the taxes?
Yes.
This year.
Yes.
Okay, I'll look at it.
Okay, take a look at it. And then whether or not that alters our lien position in terms of our priorities, you know, the amount of the property obviously exceeds the value of our loan, but at the same time, if a person gets ahead of our priorities.
In fact, I would check to see if there was any kind of tax purchase.
Okay.
For them to get a deed, they need to follow a lot of steps.
And we, village, as the mortgage holder, would get notified of all kinds of notices about that process starting or being followed. And to the best of my knowledge, we have not received any type of notice on that kind of process. So, but I'll check, and there's a redemption period, and all kinds of other timelines and notices about when a tax purchaser, in order for a tax purchaser to get what's called a tax deed.
Yeah, I understand the process. It's just playing itself out. I don't have it firsthand. I didn't actually go in and see whether or not there was a tax purchase, but I was provided that information, so I looked up in the county and assessor's records. The taxes have not been paid. I mean, they are severely delinquent. I mean, so it would be a real. And this is not this period. It was a previous period, and so that's why we need to make sure if that information is correct as to what does that do to our lien position.
So, Attorney Down, if there is, so will the village notify prior to the redemption period or after the redemption?
We'll get numerous notices
the date of the redemption is due, and taxes have been purchased. Bills will get that, the owner of the property will get that, and any other lien holders of record will get that information.
I think that covers my agenda. As I say, I'd like to get a recommitment that we're 4 months, we only have 4.5 months left in this fiscal year, and we have not seen any financial information relative to the execution of the budget that just passed. We would like to have that. I mean, the budget director, someone needs to, in effect, let us know where we are with the execution of the budget that just recently passed. We will be shortly into the next year's process. And it's kind of painful to have to go through this process that we end up in December, without a budget. And then next thing you know, we're almost in the next budget cycle, and we have not even executed the current cycle. So I offer that in terms of that. If we take in the revenues that we projected, I know we're spending the money, but what about the revenues in terms of that? So we need to have some financial clarity. And I just take this lesson from what I just recently heard at the Dolphin. I wasn't there, but I'm not going to get myself sued, so I'm not going to quote anybody, but it was a public report that one of the major breakdowns in that situation is that they were not following their own systems financially. And things got out of hand, and then, we got a purchase agreement, we got a purchase handbook, you got to go for the bids, you got to do all those kind of things. And so, from the Lori Lightfoot's report, all of that stuff tended to break down. And as a consequence of that, and then the credit card situation, we used to have that person here that used to have to review all of our credit card purchases. I don't know if that's still in place. I know we don't have a lot of folks with credit cards, but that was a standard thing that we used to do. And so I'm just cautioning me and you guys to make sure that we follow the rules that you write, and if you don't like them, you can change them. But at least as long as they're in place, I would implore you as trustees to follow the rules that you write, because otherwise we have no stability in terms of how we manage. And so I'm a finance guy, and I look at this stuff with a critical eye. And so I can't see that if I were to go into the system, I can't tell where we are. And I did this for a living for a long time. So if we can get some commitment that when you guys, we used to have a finance committee, and so what you got then was a filtered view based on citizens. We didn't get paid. It was just a voluntary thing. And we just gave you our best input, but you're not getting that. And that's something that needs to be in place, because without that kind of filter, we're going to have to make these kind of decisions just based on the seat of the pants. And a lot of them aren't around. When I was taking history stuff, I wasn't at the French Revolution, but I read about it. And so you need to, in effect, you can't seem to just take what you see before you. You gotta kind of get the background, because a lot of this stuff goes way back. And I say that as a caution, as a person who is a Glenwood, die in the wood person. So with that, I'll leave.
Thank you. Communications from the mayor's office. Person that was an appointment is unable to come tonight, so I'd like that table. Is anybody? Yes. Okay. Trustee Roll and Trustee Lynch, Williams, call the roll.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Rowe? Yes. Trustee Lynch?
Yes.
Trustee Clark? Trustee Brown? Yes.
Treasurer report, John Donahue.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, everyone. A couple items here. First is consideration and approval of a redevelopment agreement with Delta Santa Car Wash Systems, Inc.
We get a first and a second, then we'll discuss it. Trustee Trustee Taylor. Second. Trustee Lynch. Kevin, do you want to give us an outline of it and then open up for questions?
This is for the redevelopment agreement. We went through this several months ago. Mr. Mike Blount was here and presented. This is the same concept. What they're proposing to do is purchase the theater parcel for $250,000. Payment to the village of Glenwood. Closing would be relatively quick. There's other documents John will introduce. But the redevelopment agreement itself predicates that they would get 50% of their eligible, they would get 50% of their eligible costs for redevelopment after certification at 50% of their tax bill each year when they paid it. That's our standard offer that we've been making to all the development businesses. Sometime before you ask for greater percentages. This one is the standard that you've approved before. So their goal is to create a secondary exit from the backside of the car wash. And that's very appealing to the village from the standpoint of taking cars off of Halsted Street. That seems to be a very trying area for the police department and for the fire with the accidents that occur out there. So they would create that through a bridgeway or a drive access over the spillway that goes back to that detention pond. And there would be a parking area that would go up against, as you see in the site plan that was provided, parking area for their employees who would park up against the backside of the garages or the condo building. They're still speaking with the condo people in regards to acquiring a little bit more land. But they're ready to move forward. They're still not solid set on if this would be that, if you remember that glass enclosure type building with the member-only car detail for the members to do their own detailing, or if they would put up a 2 or 3 unit strip center for lease, only one story. So that's what's before you this evening as item number 1.
Is there any questions?
Chief, so where does the condos currently sit with this? Are they?
There's ongoing discussion between the condo boards for the purchase of some of their land, which would then, the only difference that would make is separate and independent from this transaction, but that would then allow them some additional use at the rear for staging of cars on the entryway. And then the exiting would get those cars, because that's a real problem we have in many of the crashes, is sometimes they're from the back up on the street, which that situation would be helped by the purchase of land. But the other thing we find as a cause of but many of these accidents is the spinning of the tires as people are exiting on those days when the pavement is wet and the arm rolls all over and things like that. So that would allow a secondary exit path out the back of the property.
So would the reimbursement be to Delta Sonic or would it be to Mr. Potato?
This is Delta Sonic. This is completely independent. This is Mr. Benderson. Believe it or not, the Delta Sonic Corporation is a national corporation owned by an individual, Mr. Benderson, and it's his corporation that this would be. This has nothing to do with any of the Patelians.
So how long do you expect that the reconstruction will take?
They plan to start as soon as the weather breaks. We're still pretty heavy in frost right now. But they plan on starting what you see there very soon. They have to order that little span bridge piece, so that could take a little while because of the materials. But they're ready to get going with the reconfiguration as soon as we get this approved.
Well, what was the total cost, Chief? Do you remember what the total cost was for?
Without the building, the land work and everything that's predicated here was, I believe, it might have to be adjusted, but not more than $400,000.
So, is any of your portion for the reconfiguration village on property?
We will have to maintain it. It's been subbed out because the spillway remains as Glenwood property and a detention pond at the far north end, all the way in. And we would maintain that property for maintenance of the pond and the spillway.
Even following?
Yes. Yeah, they would be going over our property. number from a long time ago with some development options with that. They also have to accommodate, as Dave could tell you, there's a sewer and a water main that bisects that property that will be maintained in easement.
And that'll be.
And access easement, that'll be there as well.
Any other questions?
Is this going to affect the traffic lights? This extra traffic
When we originally reviewed this, one of their thoughts was to put the exit path farther to the west. And with Dave's inputs, talking to the police chief, this driveway is going to go a little bit farther east, so that it'll enter onto Arcola, almost halfway through the property. You see it in the design phase of the site plan, which should not have any impacts on traffic.
And are we gonna go out to bid, chief, for the contractors to do the work?
We're not gonna do any work, this is all on them. The only thing we're doing tonight is approving a redevelopment agreement to reimburse them after they start paying their taxes, and then to sell them the land, they're just paying us for the land.
Any other questions? The chief, great job getting this fall, and it was village purchased it a long time ago. I wasn't on the board, none of the trustees were here, and I find it's gonna have economic development. Clerk Williams, call roll.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Lynch?
Yes.
Trustee Roll? Trustee Taylor? Trustee Williams?
Excuse me. Next item is based on the agreement that was just approved. As Chief Welch said, as part of that agreement, we are selling the two lots, 2 PIN numbers back there to Delta Sonic at a cost of $250,000. And this next resolution authorizes us to close on that sale of property.
So I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the resolution authorizing the village closing upon the sale of the property in the amount of $250,000.
So moved.
Trustee Roll, Trustee Lynch, any questions?
How soon will the closing date?
We're gonna go right away, right?
Yeah, they're prepared to move forward, as soon as we get the date set up with the closing house, they're ready to go.
Any other questions? Clerk Williams, call roll.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Lynch?
Yes.
Trustee Roll? Trustee Taylor? Trustee Williams?
Village Administrator Mitchell.
John, just as a point of clarification, do they need to vote independently on the sale contract, or was that a part of the
The
redevelopment?
sale contract was approved as part of the redevelopment agreement.
Okay,
So what this last resolution does, because your title company, the Village of Glenwood is a corporation, it's not like a person. So they require me or mayor, someone with authority to show up with that resolution, and it tells the title company that we have the authorization of the village to go ahead and sign various closing statement, gap undertaking, and things, kind of standard things that are necessary for closing of the property.
thank you.
Village Administrator Mitchell.
Good evening, Mayor and residents of Glenwood. A couple things tonight. First is, Trustee Lynch, I know you talked about the LED lights on the kind of working with one company out of Texas to try to get a design for a pilot program, so I should be able to bring that back to the board hopefully the next meeting. Also working on a couple projects with Heritage that relates to equipment for police and fire that's needed to be done. And then working on a couple projects that were directed by the board for HR purposes for issues related to employee matters. A couple announcements for the 14th, the Valentine's Day brunch for the seniors will be held at Glenwood from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. On the following day, the 15th, we will have the Black History Month recognition ceremony at the Glenwood Golf Course as well. That will start at 9:30 with a continental breakfast. The keynote speaker is Brian Jackson from WFLD 32 Morning Anchor. And then on the February 22nd, we'll have a dedication for the fire department at 11 o'clock at Station 21. It has been changed to Station 21 for some reasons now. Other than that, that is the updates I have for tonight, unless there's any questions from the board.
Village Administrator, what happened with the apps
So that should all be coming forward. So I'll talk to two companies, I've already got them, looking at the next board meeting for reservation also. Okay. And who we have, followed up with principals at the field house? After field house is one of whose responsibilities to go through it, check the condition of it? Yeah, I work with Tiffany and also Public Works. So Public Works is verifying the condition of the renters leave. So what they do is, so they go in on Monday morning, and we'll check it. All right, you know, Joe came in, they go in on Monday morning, and then also Tiffany goes in on the weekends sometimes. It is becoming an issue.
It always has been. It just needs to be a dedicated person that is actively checking the condition of the field house once people leave, because we redid all those field houses to just let people come in and, you know, destroy them, if you will, and then, we don't have anybody following behind it. But at least I wasn't aware. I didn't, it's my last talk to Tiffany, there wasn't anything specific in place, but it sounds like there is.
She sends out Friday, she sends out who's renting what building, so we know where to check up on Mondays. And also the cleaning lady lets us know if there's something wrong inside of there.
Yeah, I know,
and there have been deposits that have not been returned. Yeah, Tiffany did tell me that. She did tell me there's been some, so I'm glad to hear that. So.
Any other questions for Brian? Engineering, Dave Schiller.
Thank you, Mayor. In the trustees' packets, there's a proposal for smoke testing in the village's high priority area. About 10 years ago, MWRD, who handles all the stormwater and wastewater in Cook County, redid all their ordinances and requirements, and they made all of their customer municipalities come up with plans to reduce what they call I&I, or inflow and infiltration. So sanitary sewer all goes to the treatment plant at 130th to be treated and released. Anytime any groundwater or rainwater gets into the sanitary system, that has to be treated at a cost. So they pass that down to all of their municipalities. So every year, you got to do more and more to address the problem of groundwater or rainwater entering your sewer system. As everybody knows, the 187th Street lift station pumps a lot of water, and that's all sanitary sewer. It's all supposed to be just sanitary sewer, but there is a lot of rainwater inflow. That's water going into the system from above, and infiltration. That's groundwater going into the system. So the next step for Glenwood is to do this smoke testing, which we do in the summer when the ground dries out, and we pump the sanitary sewer full of non-toxic white smoke, and you can see where that comes out of the ground. It'll tell us if a manhole cover has a hole in it that would let water in it, if someone's yard has a clean out without a cap, all sorts of things. If the ground is dry and there's a break in the sewer, it can even come up through holes in the ground. To be in compliance with MWRD, that needs to be done in 2025.
Is this TIF eligible building?
I'm not a,
No, what TIF?
Is this TIF eligible?
No, it's not. If any of it goes into the TIF district, then it could be, but I don't believe any of that's predicated to be just a piece on Halsted, so it'd be a very small sliver. It could be in the TIF area. We can certainly look at that, but as a general answer to the question, no.
I think it'd be worth looking at.
We can certainly parcel out anything that does fall in the boundary and grab that out.
When was the last time we did this?
well, we have not done smoke testing as far as I can remember. When this program first started, we inspected all the manholes into the project that lined them, and then a couple years later, we televised all of the sanitary sewer throughout the entire village. That gave us a lot of credit with MWRD for a couple years. One of the first things was individual home. Was that?
How does this affect the individual
They might notice, the white smoke, you know, and we do all the outreach. We knock on doors, we do door hangers, we can have the village put something on the website, and make sure everybody is aware, because, yeah, if you have, smoke coming out of a hole in your front yard, that it could cause some panic. But we do try to make sure that everyone is aware that, you know, it is, completely non-toxic. The smoke is made for this purpose.
And so if the residents are finding to have the issue on their property, it's bringing in the responsibility of the resident or the.
It's technically the resident, but if it's something easy, you know, if it's just a cap on a cleanout you get from Menards for $3, you might as well just have Public Works buy it and screw it on there. But if someone has, you know, their downspouts connected to the sanitary, you know, that would be a code violation. That's not allowed. If the smoke starts coming out of the roof from the downspouts, that would be something they don't do.
Again, Dave, how often is this done?
Rarely. Eventually, you probably have to do the whole village. Once we move out of what we call the high priority area, which is that area that's tributary to that lift station, but I'm not anticipating doing any more in the next 5 years or so.
Any other questions? Somebody like to make a motion to consider the approval for smoke testing as requested by MWRD in the amount not to exceed $32,400. Trustee Taylor. Give it a second. Second. Trustee Lynch. Any additional questions? Clerk Williams, call roll.
Trustee Burnham?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Lynch?
Yes.
Trustee Rowe? Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Williams?
Department reports. Joe.
Thank you, Mayor. First item is request for approval of purchase equipment for the senior center kitchen in the amount of $13,089.78. This would come out of the ARPA funds.
Somebody like to
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Williams.
And I'll second.
Trustee Roll. And I just want to add, this is going to come out of ARPA funds. So when you're voting, this includes coming out of the ARPA funds.
That was my question.
Yes. Clerk Williams, call roll.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Rowe?
Yes.
Trustee Lynch? Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 2 is request approval to issue RFPs for Village Hall Police Department rehab, the HVAC system, and window replacement.
Would I like to make a motion for the request for approval to issue an RFP for the Village Hall Police Department rehabilitation of HVAC and windows? Everybody knows we've had trouble with the chiller system, since they put it in 1999. It was 2000. Clerk Williams. Trustee Taylor. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Sue.
This is just a request. We're not voting on anything, we're just gonna collect.
Right, going out to get some prices, and then we'll come back and present what we come up with.
Any other questions?
Joe, so I know we've had some conversation, although we limited, about the renovation of the police department. Does it make sense to even engage in this right now if we're going to renovate the police station? If the plan is to do that?
Yes, well, the HVAC system ties into the Village Hall and police department, so.
What about the windows?
So the windows, none of the windows open in PD or Village Hall.
Yeah.
So that's something we want to change. I know it's a different story with having windows being able to be open in PD. I don't think that's.
No, that's fine, I just was thinking of if the plan is to renovate the building.
Right, at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. This is just the first step in starting that.
Any other questions? Clerk Williams, call roll.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Rowe?
Yes.
Trustee Lynch?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Anything else, Joe?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Is there any new business?
gonna be allotted for what specific project? The board made recommendations, but what's the time allotted from the ARPA fund?
Well, we asked that list, it was like a wish list.
Right. So there's no plan for anything yet? You got the wish list?
Yeah, we did the wish list.
No, I remember that, but from that, is there not a plan yet for how we're gonna spend it?
Well, we're using something that senior community center. We're using something for the community center. So we're concrete expenditures now. We'll have to decide. If you want me to move it, we'll put it in.
Yeah, I think we should, we wanna at least take, I would hope that we can take action on this for April, kind of saying, because we had some kind of appropriation, John, at least outline the things that we would like to spend on, so we probably have to take action on whatever the direction is, so I don't know if staff has to bring it back to us or what that looks like. Okay.
So trustee Lynch on that, I guess I would owe, as I see stuff come up on the agenda, that list again with what we've expensed, so that we have a running total of what's remaining for you guys to make those decisions. So based on your comments around the fire department or the fire station, I think I owe that to you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. And then secondly, I know that I've talked about this for several months now. Can we just get someone from the auditing firm to come and give us a status update as to where we are? Because I don't know if they continue to move the line or if it's, when we last discussed it, they were waiting on some small pieces from us. I just don't understand why, what's the hold up? Are they still waiting for things from us, Martin, or?
Yes, they are. I'm kind of going back and forth with the bank to try to get the collateral statement and one other, it was a cable statement, balance statement that they need to. So trying to get that stuff secured for them, but juggling all my tasks.
So have they already started?
Well, they've started. They're just waiting on these couple pieces to wrap it totally up.
And then we are, or 2025 board, put in place that once one approval is at 25,000, it will come back to the board. Do you know where they are? Because I know that for the last two meetings, we were paying bills for it was November and December.
Yeah, I haven't seen a January or February amount yet, but I'm going to be keeping track of that.
Is there anybody else with old business?
I have a question. What was happening in California every year there? And we're surrounded by forests on three sides. Who pays there to keep the eye? Because the same thing as we had, why the dry season, fire struck out, we're surrounded by three sides. It could very well happen.
It's a perfect timing for the question because a week ago Friday, we actually sent an engine to Tinley Park at a large brush fire in the Forest Reserve area that got out, shut down I-57 for a short period of time between Central Avenue and I-57 in Revolver. This past Friday, thank goodness our Cook County Forest Reserve District is actually proactive about their back burning. And they've been doing a lot of it in the last 2 weeks. Unfortunately, what happens with their back burning, they man that during the day for 8 hours, and then they watch it, they go home, and then it flares up at night, and we get stuck with it. So the latest one that was done that would be to our advantage was behind Maple in the Jurgensen area, which will keep it away from the back of those houses. We're actually looking at a little bit further in the spring. Everybody thinks this area just north of Center Street at the end of State or Young. is actually forest preserve, it's not, it's village-owned property. That does come up to the back of some of those garages and things, we need to look at back higher than that. And the county is also looking at, on the south side of Main Street, where it comes up to the back of the industrial area and things like that, so they are being very proactive. Unfortunately, it does fall on the local fire departments to provide that safety service, because the only thing the Forest Reserve has is these small trucks that go out and contain their burden. But on off hours, they have nothing to respond to else. So it's been a problem. I've appeared before the Cook County Board 2 times on this, both for our village and for the Mavis organization, because we're stuck with the burden of supplying the personnel, the apparatus, and the cost, and they have nothing to give us, and we don't get any recoup on it. But we are definitely on top of it.
Mayor, sure. Anyone that wants to expect the answer now, but just for consideration. Considering that property we're going to sell, I think it's 250 cheap.
Correct.
So because that is unbudgeted income, as a suggestion, could we look at using that as dedicated funds for tree lighting? I mean, if that would avoid, free up some of the COVID money and not have to worry about having to go down, but that's just a suggestion. And secondly, Chief, where we looked at the traffic calm, I know you presented the information, but what next steps or opinion does the board play a part in?
Well, right now, this is being included in the questionnaire for the residents to get their mind and their concern about this matter, where they are, to see what parts of town are interested in what, and then once we have that data, we can go forward. I spoke with Joe about looking into the temporary removal, traffic bumps, see the feasibility of those. But yeah, they all have, impacts, pros and cons, so we're trying to see what's beneficial, where the problem areas are, and what the solutions all around are.
So where's this question? How is the survey getting out?
I think it would be
Survey, we're looking at Survey Monkey will be one, and then it'll also probably be a mailer, and then we have it on the website and on the social media.
All right, thank you, Chief. Thank you.
Any other old business? Somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Trustee Morrow, Williams, call roll.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Taylor? Trustee Rowe? Trustee Lynch?
Yes.
Trustee Clark? Trustee Brown?
Yes.